So welcome. We are here in the Bitcoin Design Guide Jam session number 25. And as usual, we will go over what we're currently working on in the design guide, upcoming tasks, anything anybody can share what they're working on, problems, good things, things they want, places where they need help or review from each other, all of this. And as usual, we just start, I guess we can start by just opening up the floor, see if anybody has anything specific they want to, that's really important to discuss. Otherwise, we can just go down the roadmap and take it from there. What do you think?
I had one thing, but if anyone else has anything, you can chime in first. It's not, I guess it is pretty important, but yeah, if anyone else has something first.
Go for it. Hit us.
So it's about doing the revising, so the milestone 16, revising daily spending wallet. So I've assigned myself the requesting and the landing page, or the funding page, sorry, requesting and funding. I did bring this up previously, but what do you guys think of combining those just into a receiving page and we just have like first use receiving Bitcoin? I know there is some slight differences like with funding, but it's kind of the same. It will just like avoid overlap. And I think you could just have a section within the receiving page. It says like, first time funding, and you can start the receiving page with that and be like, this is a receive. It's a little bit different, etc. Or maybe that would be somewhere else on the page. But the general idea is what I'm trying to get across. I haven't gone into the details yet on the page, but I just think it would, avoid a bit of overlap in the guide and just make the section a little bit more succinct rather than having like another extra page.
You talk about consolidating funding and requesting. Is it? Do I understand?
No, so right? It'd be so we're going to branch off the receiving portion of requesting. Sorry, I forgot. I should have mentioned that context. So I just like finished eating dinner, so I'm kind of brain isn't thinking.
I can pull it up here.
So we're going to get the receiving content from the requesting page, and we're going to make a new page. That's what we originally discussed. But I'm also assigned to the funding page, and I was thinking just getting that content from the requesting page, molding it into the funding page, and just calling that receiving, and then talk about first time funding within that page, and then also talk about general receiving too. I don't think it would get too long. Like I think you could be able to cover it in a reasonably sized page. Because I'm going to trim down the funding page quite a lot because we're removing all the on-chain stuff, all the manual channel funding stuff. So just keep that in mind that the funding page will be quite smaller than it currently is because we're going to remove quite a bit of content.
That would have been my question. If we indeed hammer more into automatic Lightning setup via LSPs, then some of this content is not so necessary anymore. The question is just then, do we move it somewhere else, more in an on-chain reference design, so we don't lose it because it's still relevant? I mean, I would still actually love to have a walkthrough of this, because as a designer, it's kind of good to see, here's kind of the streamlined version, but here's also the manual version, because otherwise you don't really know what you're not seeing. Really, what's involved, what users would have to do in a manual way. Masu, is that did I pronounce it incorrectly?
It's Masu. I didn't hear that last part, so I probably can't contribute there. But yeah.
I just wanted to ask, like, if you have any questions or some of the stuff, if you want a little bit more context, feel free to hop in. What we're doing, the big effort that we're doing right now is we have this daily spending wallet reference design, which is like a Lightning focused wallet that you just don't use for tons amount of money, but small amounts. So you just kind of make smaller payments. And it's focused on making things super easy for users. So we're trying to remove some of the more manual user actions and to trim down that reference design a bit. But the question is then, some of these manual things that we already described here, do we ditch them altogether, or we could just move them somewhere else?
I've had a feeling about this. Obviously, like it may be more annoying for developers to do this, but there should be like levels to the game, like you should be able to just set that yourself. Like, hey, I'm a beginner, just give me the beginner outlook. And then for the people that want more advanced features, there should be like an advanced version of the app. I think that's how things should be in general, but I'm not sure if that helps.
that is a discussion that I've heard several times before in different projects. That is a thing. I think what we're
higher
trying.
maintenance for sure. Sorry to interrupt, but it's just higher. It's higher maintenance, and it's like more things to deal with. And I guess the newer users might get lost. So there's like all these like trade-offs. But I feel like advanced users get really annoyed if we don't get our advanced stuff. So
yeah, for sure. I think what we're doing with the design guide is think more about it. Like, here's one project that's specifically for casual users. Here's one project that's more for advanced users, because the trick with this design guide is that it just gets so complex and so tough to write out all this content. I mean, I'm just talking here. What do the others think there?
Yeah, so I mean, we talked about on another call that we're essentially kind of reframing the daily spending wallet section to be kind of all centered around this, this one single prototype. So, I mean, I'm pretty much just standing by what we said on previous calls, which is that, whatever's on the page should reflect whatever the prototype is. The prototype should feel like a complete product that you could hire a developer for and then, just go build. So whatever we're highlighting on the page should just be whatever's in that prototype. Other stuff, no, I mean, it's, I don't think we should just like throw away that other work. It could live on the bottom of that page and, alternatives or advanced options or something like that, or it could just go to another page entirely. Don't really have strong opinions about that. Just that, whatever we're highlighting on the page should be what's in the prototype, I think.
Maybe there's an advanced section,
I think that the difference between funding the wallet on the previous on-chain version of the guide was just that funding a wallet was a lot of like, how do you, get on an exchange or, buy your first Bitcoin and all that. Whereas like the funding wallet has really kind of changed the meaning in the new like Lightning centric version, because it's now about kind of like, how do you get the first payment channel? So, I mean, if we think about it like that, if we just think about the funding page as like, how do we get the first payment channel? It starts to feel like different content. So, I mean, it seems like that could be consolidated in some way with request to receive, especially if we're just going to think of the daily spending wallet as basically being, some kind of zero conf channel that's just automatically opened, the first time the user tries to receive their first Lightning payment. So,
yeah, I mean, there's a difference between the first time you fund a wallet where it's just completely empty, you can't do anything, and you need to fund it, and making sure people understand what's going on. There might be fees involved. It might take a few minutes, whatever. And then just continuously requesting later on, I think it's a little bit of a different thing. So as long as we somehow have some description information about this first time funding, which is part of the first user experience, then I'm fine. But to be honest, with the page split up, I would just focus on the content first and then figure out the number of pages and titles that's appropriate, and not try to say, okay, we're gonna have 2 pages and then just start trying to squeeze things in.
I was gonna do a big review first, but I was just wanted to kind of get everyone's thoughts on that first, just to like, if I start going down that path whilst reviewing it all, I just wanted to know.
And that's a good point, because on the first time, even if they do, have a channel open for them automatically, it's still, I assume the fee is probably going to be a little bit higher on the first time. So probably be good to demonstrate that interaction.
And maybe also let users know, I don't know, it's kind of tricky. Like Moon completely hides all this stuff, but then you might get hit with surprise fees somewhere. And
somebody argued against that on Reddit today. They were like, "Oh, people should not recommend Moon at all because Moon does submarine swap and that increases the fee the first time and da 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 da." So I guess there should be like a statement that disclaims that somehow for them, but maybe they shouldn't. They should ignore that. I don't know.
I thought
some
it did
transparency.
Every single Lightning payment, send and receive. Or am I wrong about that? Because I think it's on-chain only wallet.
Yeah, I think it's every single time.
Yeah.
Can you say that again? The lightning to lightning on Moon, is that even a submarine swap? Or is that
Moon, I think every single receive Lightning or send Lightning is a swap, and all your chains, all your funds are kept in a 2 or 2 multi-sig. So there's no, you don't have like your own node, so, but it does like trustless swaps. I think, I don't know, it's not all completely transparent, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
That's my understanding as well. You don't have
And
a
add a
channel
little bit
state
of
back.
dimension here. They have a buffer where they take a trusted risk both on your part or their part. So I think there's a certain like amount of sats that you can receive or send that they actually owe or owe you, or, you know, depending on the direction. And when you reach that buffer, that's when they do the loop, the swap in and out. And so so this way they don't, if you receive 10,000 sats or 1,000 sats, they don't do an on-chain transaction. I don't know what the buffer size is, but there's some debates about the limits and everything. In some Twitter conversations you can find, I think with Fiat Jaff or something, he was like trying to like probe it to figure out how it works, but they don't actually publish the details, so you don't know for sure how it works.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the larger topic there is just being a bit transparent, and so users can know what they're dealing with and what they can expect from things.
And also, you know, the moon, while it's fascinating, let's just keep remember, like I kind of, that's like its own thing. I you know, I kind of feel like with the guide here, that's whenever you're talking about on-chain and Lightning, then like moon is always the, but what about moon? Because, you know, they're so different. And, you know, so I personally, I don't want to spend too much time in the guide dealing with those kind of edge cases, because who knows if they're even still going to be using that model in 5 years, you know? So yeah, personally, I think with the daily spending wallet, we should think of it as being a more of a Breeze-like wallet.
I'd say more of like a Phoenix type wallet, but yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, similar type of architecture, but different. But
Sorry, I thought you said Blix. Actually, I just realized you said Breeze.
Breeze.
Yeah, Breeze and Phoenix. Yeah, they're the two kind of wallets I'd model the guide around. But yeah, sorry, I thought you said Blixt, which is a little bit more technical. But
yeah, the problem is there is no popular archetype yet. Like there's 2 wallets that do this, 1 wallet that does that, custodial wallets, and then like even Breeze is changing to using Greenlight, and so they're going to be a different model, and so things are still new. So it's hard to say what everybody should be doing when everybody's doing something different.
Well, just to give some context as well to you, John, you jumped in a little bit later, and we've been having some discussions. I'm not too sure how close you've been following them, but we were going to frame the daily spending wallet to being like a LSP first wallet. So like, you know, most of the content was going to focus on LSP solving the particular issues that they kind of can solve, like opening channels for users, giving them inbound liquidity, rather than going into the detail of like, say you manually open a channel, find a peer. It's just going to assume LSPs is kind of the way things are going now. We could be wrong about that, but like you said, there's no archetype yet for a daily spending wallet. But that's kind of what we're going to go with for now, I think.
While I am biased because that's the model we've chosen, I will say it's probably the safest choice because it's still applicable to remote wallets, like fully remote wallets, which is another kind of practical way to do it. It's totally not applicable to custodial, but who cares? Custodial doesn't have any of these problems. And so LSPs is always kind of a paradigm that still solves problems in most wallet design types. So I think it's okay.
Yeah, I think we also have to be a little bit honest that we're in the design guide. We're still, there's just a certain level where we're just not going to solve it. You know, the exactly how things will all be managed under the hood and what the fees will be. I think for that, you actually need to do a real implementation and work with the technical details and use it. I think we can get pretty close, but I think we're still, will always be a little bit in design land, I feel like. And one of the reasons why I also thought that was another question that I was having here, which was the discussion around the contacts page and the sending Bitcoin page, which was the sending Bitcoin page currently describes here, and I got feed now here contacts page. It says here, you supported addresses. you can send to a node ID or a Bolt 12 offer or a Bolt 12 address or a LNURL pay or all of this stuff. And there was feedback, well, we don't need to, like, let's just pick the top best ones that we want to support. But that's not so easy, and it changes over time, right? So that's why it's a similar question, like how much of a specific spec are we basing this reference design on?
I think you can probably count on contacts becoming a persistent, design pattern, and how the contacts are implemented may change. Like you may have things like LNURL, or we're doing slash tags, or you may have just the normal phone contacts that you started attaching Bitcoin addresses to. Who knows where it will land in the end? But I do think that's one design pattern you can probably count on, is contacts being an abstraction. As far as the Bitcoin payment types, I agree. It's a real problem. And again, my biased response is that's why we're doing the slash pay stuff we're doing, which is to abstract all the payment methods behind a server. And so the server negotiates which methods are supported by each peer you're trying to communicate with. But even that will have shortcomings in that if it doesn't get popularized, it'll only be used in some wallets. And it doesn't solve the problem of, well, what if those people don't support the way you want to pay? Like there's still problems. We have ideas for abstracting and getting rid of those problems, but this is all long term. And for now, you may have to either say, support as many, here are all the things you could support in your wallet, and here are all the permutations of the subtle differences in the UX that you have to support if you do support these certain features. Or you can say, you can like skip all that and maybe have a design pattern of this is a Lightning only wallet, and you say, okay, the only assumption we can make is that it will pay Bolt 11 invoices, and everything else is icing,
Yep. Yep. Bosch, Steven, do you have any thoughts on this? Because I feel like you two also made some comments on this, what I was referring to earlier. Should we just be a little bit more loose and say, here's kind of a group of things you can support? My approach has been, here's a list of things you can support, you figure out based on your wallet design.
I mean, I'm going to say the exact same answer I said for the funding page, which is that what's at the top of the page should just be whatever's inside the daily spending, wallet prototype, and that everything else should just be alternative, advanced options, that kind of thing. Yeah, no, you're right. We're not going to like nail the format down. Maybe the world becomes absorbed by LNURL, or maybe Bolt 12 happens and we go that way, or maybe Bolt 13, 15, whatever number comes out, and it's like better than everything. I don't know. Anything could happen. We're early. I think the important thing with the whole paradigm around structuring the guide around these reference designs, where each reference design is kind of like its own fully fleshed out prototype, is that we're helping to kind of paint a picture and create a vision for what a really nice, finished, open source, self-custodial Bitcoin product would look like. And there's probably going to be some details that 10 years later we're like, okay, well, we got that thing wrong, or some other wallet project's going to be like, wow, I really like this daily spending wallet prototype, except that I don't like the specific format that they've chosen. I'm going to code my own thing there instead. I think all of that's fine. We just kind of have to accept that that stuff is going to happen. But I think that just for like the purpose of the kind of the clarity that the reader gets when they go through it and they see the guide, I think that it's just important to kind of make a slightly more opinionated stance about what formats this wallet chooses. We shouldn't lie to the reader, though, and we shouldn't say it has to be this format, forever to the end of time. Yeah, we should mention these other formats, and I think that's where stuff like having a page that lists out, well, here's all the different payment request formats that people are arguing about, or in this type of situation, maybe you might want this feature in your wallet. So yeah, definitely let's talk about the plethora of different features we have and mention them. Let's not hide this content, but the kind of stuff that's like front and center at the top of the page should be a little bit more opinionated, in my opinion.
Well articulated there.
That was really nice. Well done.
We recorded it. You can listen back to it. Throw that on TikTok or somewhere. Awesome.
I don't know how to use TikTok, unfortunately.
Preaching.
But did that answer the question though, or in a way that made coherent sense?
100%.
I think it's a good framework. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
the
think
details will work out in pull requests.
Yeah, I think being opinionated about stuff is okay. Like we're kind of a lot of the stuff that we're designing in the guide doesn't even exist in any wallets, like especially like contacts, like we're just talking. So I think it's okay to take an opinionated stance on certain things. Like I know the discussion around like what address, which in the guide we call reusable payment request address now in the requesting page, just to like abstract that away and not get into all the complexities. But I know we've talked a lot about just kind of like focusing on Bolt 12, but it's quite hard. Like most end user wallets use like LND and stuff, and Core Lightning's not really widely adopted, so like it's hard to make a stance on that. But Bolt 12 is pretty good, like from what it's spec'd out so far. But yeah, like
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I don't, and like in terms of being opinionated about stuff, it's not that I want the design guide to necessarily be like creating engineering recommendations, because I've said this probably in many issue and PR comments that I don't really feel like it's our place to make engineering recommendations. When I say the design should be opinionated, I just more mean that I really just want it to, when somebody looks at the prototype and when they read through the guide, I really just want them to understand it cohesively as a product, as something they could start using. And I think we do kind of need to, in some respect, take a neutral stance and do show off these other formats and all of that. We just need to be like, for this particular product, for this particular use case, these are the design decisions that went into making this product. And I think that will ultimately be a more readable and understandable thing to anyone who looks at the guide. And I think that someone who's smart enough to build their own Bitcoin product can then look at that prototype and understand, these are why the design decisions are made. I can see how all the pieces and the parts work together to form this product. And but for my product, I want to do it a little differently, so I'm going to change XYZ features. So we can still be opinionated about why we build the prototype the way that we build it, while also acknowledging that there's other projects and other like specs and stuff that people are working on within Bitcoin.
Yeah, and that's why sometimes we'll have stuff at the bottom of the page that's like alternative approaches, advanced options, these types of things, where somebody gets the coherent piece at the top, and then if they want to take a slightly different route, they can scroll down.
Exactly. I love it. Yep.
Cool. Bosch, just one thing. You mentioned merging pages. I know you love huge pull requests, but it would be awesome if you could split them down into smaller bits, so they're more easy to review. Sorry for calling you out here.
That's cool. I'll do it in a few smaller ones rather than do it all at once, because that'd be a pretty big PR. So
yeah. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Okay, so we are about halfway through here. How about we just do quick, unless anything else important, we can just do a quick top to bottom of these issues here.
Sounds good to me.
Adding Lightning content to glossary node. Bosch says here you have it to do, but not started yet.
There's a PR up for that.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't update it in the roadmap. I don't actually look at the project roadmap a whole lot, to be completely honest. But yeah, there's a PR up for that. I just need to edit the images. I think that was any feedback you guys gave me, so I'll just make them a bit more relevant, and I'll do that probably tomorrow morning. It won't take too long. So yeah.
Okay, cool. So in progress, going. Provide guidance on delayed payments. There's a bunch of discussion happening on HODL invoices and all kinds of stuff. So far, there was nothing really to act on. The only addition we could think of was your LSP sends you a notification when you have a payment pending and you're offline. But that might be a small addition which I can take care of. UX guidance.
So it's also just on that. So with that LSP PR I got up, is segmented into two sections. So there's one on LSPs and there's one on the Lightning Wallet servers. So LSP could act as a Lightning Wallet server, but a Lightning Wallet server could also send that notification to a user, like something like Greenlight. So may want to make that distinction. I don't know if you do. Like, I'll let you decide that, but just wanted to make a comment on that it could be either. But yeah, it's generally like a Lightning Wallet server, which could be acting like a LSP as well. But yeah.
Yeah, I guess with the push notification service where all that integration happens, that's the question, right? Okay, cool. Then UX guidance for LN channel reserve. Is there not a channel reserve was added to the glossary? That's done, right?
That's done. That was Bosch's. That was fun to do because we did a little mini task, since the technical side of things is quite foreign to me. So we did a little mini task of adding the glossary and working in working in Atom and then push pull to GitHub. So if I pretty much shortened down the text quite considerably of the channel reserve document. So if someone just wants to maybe go through with me, just like Bosch did the last time, just actually making it into a page. I've gotten it down to 1.5 pages now. So actually making it into a page, a live page again. Happy to do that tomorrow or the day after, depending on who has time. I've done it one time before with the glossary, so second time should go a lot better. It's sure. I don't think the updated document is there actually. I should probably add in the updated document because that's the longer version that you're looking at.
Yeah, I can help with GitHub stuff if you need it.
Cool. I'll send you a message on Slack and we can set up a time.
And does that go in how it... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so I think we're going to... I think we discussed about adding the channel reserve content to the liquidity page, I think, Mo. I think there may be some other areas that may be relevant, but yeah, like Stephen helping you with that. Like Stephen did the liquidity page, so I'm sure he'd be able to help you, fit that in quite nicely with that content.
Add it at the bottom. Yep, cool.
Okay, cool. So that's going. Then add content about guiding users towards using Lightning. I don't know what that one's about.
It just some offhand comment I made a long time ago, and I let it sit for a couple months, and I think I got a couple of concept acts on it, so I can take care of that one.
Apparently, I like the idea.
Yeah, so
I like it.
I mean, this would be like a simple, like a tiny paragraph on one existing page, probably.
Okay.
Because with that, considering we're going with like Lightning only LSP type setup and removing a lot of the on-chain content, except there would be the aspect of like if you do an on-chain payment, we should do a swap. Like obviously a swap would cost more, so that's where you'd kind of guide them. So like I guess in areas relating to that, you'd want to discuss guiding people to using that, which would probably be covered on the the sending page.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's like because it's like ultimately I'm all for me. I like the BIP21 unified and all of that, but like I just kind of feel bad, if somebody is making a about to make a on-chain transaction for $1.37 at a coffee shop or gas station or something, and the wallet's not like, hey, are you sure you really want to do this on chain?
So take a look at what Paolo posted also. He just took some recommendations from Patricia's research, I think, and he created a pull request. Also, very similar in the fee selection and send flow, I guess, about telling people like, hey, you're paying more in fees than your payment is worth, or fees are super high right now. Do you want to wait until they're lower, or stuff like that? That seems to go hand in hand. Because if we also have to figure out a way to where to actually put this in the UI. So ideally, we just have one message type that says, here's the situation, here are your options, and then it can take on different forms.
Just one thing with, like, I bring this up before, I might not have like articulated like my concern with it as clearly, because I still think it is a concern, and it's with the unified QR codes and the LSP model. So if you give a unified QR code to someone, they essentially have the say over if you're going to pay that extra fee, like the sender, which can be a bit problematic. So if I give you say if I give Christoph a unified QR code, and it's for like $1, and like he could send it through Lightning. I'm a complete noob. I have no idea what Lightning on-chain is. I just give you this one QR code. That's the whole point of the unified QR code. So you don't need to know those differences. Christoph decides to send to the on-chain portion, which conducts a swap, and then my dollar essentially becomes nothing because the dollar went towards paying for that on-chain fee, and I could actually maybe end up spending more than I was going to receive, and could cause failures and issues there. But just wanted to bring that up. That's something that we may need to kind of address at some point. And then the only way you could address that is in when the person generates the unified QR code, you could say like, it's cheaper to receive from the Lightning portion, but then that kind of defeats the point of the unified QR code because you're trying to abstract away those two layers. So yeah, it's just thought I'd bring that up again because I've bring it up a couple of times.
Should it only present a unified QR code if the amount is over a certain value?
Potentially, yeah. If the on-chain fee, if the sender decides to send an on-chain payment, if the on-chain fee is higher than the amount requested, then yeah, you probably wouldn't want to share the unified QR code. But like,
that's an interesting idea. We would have to dig into, I think, the fee stuff more, because the one thing about it is like the on-chain fee. Ultimately, the fee doesn't matter on the receiver side. The fee doesn't matter because the sender is going to have to pay that fee. If I tell you that you owe me $1.50, the fee is up to you to pay. Like, you can't be like, well, here's 2 cents. The rest of it I paid in fees. Like, the fee, at least in a Bitcoin context, is on the sender side.
No, for a swap, it's not. That's the only difference. So like, the sender sends it on-chain, and then it gets to the Lightning Wallet server. The Lightning Wallet server conducts a swap for the user that they have a channel with on their behalf, and then that fee generally comes from the requester.
Okay, I see. So you're specifically talking about a situation where like the receiver's wallet, like let's say is Lightning only, and there's some kind of submarine swap service, hooked up on the LSPs or LSW or whatever we're calling it in, and that submarine swap automatically, it has an on-chain address. They're generating an on-chain address, but it's effectively being immediately swapped into Lightning for them.
Yeah, sorry, you keep going.
And in that swap is where they would lose the money on the fee, is what you're saying. Is that right?
Yep, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I was just thinking this probably sounds like total gibberish to most people here outside of this group.
Yeah, that's a good one. Let me jot down notes and explore that idea more.
Because yeah, like if we're doing the Lightning only thing, swaps should definitely be explained, and then that would need to be addressed if we're doing that. But yeah, we'll figure out.
I see what you're saying. And so in that instance, yeah, if the swap is about to happen as soon as they receive the payment, then in that context, yeah, you could just kind of dynamically calculate the fee for that swap right there, and then figure out of, is it worth it or is it not?
Like you could go test this with Phoenix. Like you can generate a on-chain address and you give it to someone and they send it to you, and they do a swap and you pay for the swap. They pay for the first on-chain payment and then you pay for the swap.
Got it. That makes sense.
Yeah, sorry to derail going through the roadmap, but I just wanted to bring that up just because it kind of related.
Taking a note of it.
It's a really good point. Yeah. It's pretty intense stuff. Okay, cool. So next one, website usability. That's been on my plate forever here. I just need to do some more keyboard testing and finish up the focus management for navigation menus, and then just commit this thing. Stephen, with your Lottie update, there were also some accessibility things we discussed. I don't think Lottie is on here. Do you want to just briefly give an update on that one?
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, we we added some animation doodads to the website, Christoph and I. I mean,
yeah. So Lottie is a web animation library that allows you to create animation in After Effects and then export them and then run them on a website or in an app.
Yeah, so we're doing some little animation stuff here. So we're in the process of working on this PR here. the main thing, you should be able to basically add an animation on any section of the site that you want to once this goes live. Oh, that's an interesting little bug that's happening there. Need to figure out what's going on with that. We just need to work on a kind of an accessibility thing, so that somebody doesn't like motion. If they prefer reduced motion, then the lottie animation wouldn't load. So you brought that up, Christoph. I just feel like, we should probably merge that in now instead of putting it in a separate PR, because as soon as we merge it into main, this basically goes live on the home page. So I feel like we kind of shouldn't knowingly merge a accessibility concern. So I'm just going to work in something on the little, in these little includes here. So I'll have something that's like a fallback image. So whenever you create a lottie animation, you would basically create an image that is the same aspect ratio, and then define that here in the include. And then, the JavaScript hook that loads in all of the lottie code when the page loads, it would just, if it sees prefers reduced motion, it would just load the image instead. Simple as that. So that's basically, I should be able to get that banged out in the next day or so.
Awesome.
Cool.
Excellent. Yeah, lots of stuff going on with accessibility. And okay, next, milestone 16, daily spending wallet section. Let's start from the top. Stephen, you assigned yourself to the landing page. I think you also mentioned that you're working on a design somewhere.
Yeah, I've been working with, I'm basically just working with it inside of, I just made a separate page for it in our Figma file here. And I've been trying to work in some of the feedback that we left on there. So, it looks somewhat similar to the landing page we already have. But I'm revising this text here to, talk a little bit more about the, kind of keeping funds in Lightning channels wherever possible. And then also bringing back the link to the prototype and trying to treat it more like kind of almost like a tutorial for how to build a wallet. And then I'm also revising the text here, some of the comments that we were discussing on the other page of the Figma file were about, making some of these text things more descriptive instead of just saying sending. This page is about sending, trying to actually go into a little bit more detail. And I've been kind of using some other kind of code tutorials and stuff like that, like stuff that would look a little bit more familiar to like a development library or development framework, trying to look to some of that for inspiration on how to construct that page. So yep, same prototype Figma file. I'm just kind of doing my work on another page.
Awesome.
Cool.
And this is, you're not doing layout change, you're not changing any CSS, or so you're working with the content and the formatting that we have.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to changing CSS. I just don't have any, ideas to do that at the moment.
Yeah, no, it was just a question. I think it's good to just treat one thing at a time. And yeah, the original idea of these landing pages was just basically list out all the content, all the sub pages as just a brief overview, and then let people dig in. But this is more of there's more meat here now on this landing page, which makes sense.
It looks good from first impressions. Just one thing, I probably sound like a broken record, but may want to just highlight that we're going with the assumption that the wallet developer is using an LSP in their stack to solve various issues, because I'm not sure if it's highlighted on that page.
No, that's a good idea. We probably actually need to explicitly highlight that.
Yeah, maybe say like what we were saying before about how we may be wrong about that assumption, but that's kind of where things are for now, and that's kind of what we're designing this reference daily spending wallet around. So
yeah, exactly. And every single one of these prototypes is going to make some assumptions about the kind of architecture. So we just have to explain what the assumption for this particular prototype is. So yeah, that's good. We can mention how it uses LSPs to provide a better user experience, link that to the LSP page, and be good to go.
cool.
Okay, awesome, looking good. Next one, we have the first use page. And I think there was some discussion around first use versus onboarding. Is it the same thing? Is it not? What should go in here? There were some, we also talked about providing more options of how to think about these kind of onboarding screens, whether it's just pure text-based or always asking users to make a decision per screen. So I think I don't think anybody's working on it, but I think we kind of know, the hive mind knows what we want to do. Or any other thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think it'd be good to address that maybe last, because then we can because in the onboarding, that's where you kind of want to lay out the most important aspects of the app. So there may be some other things that we bring up while we work on the other pages that might be relevant to explore a bit further in that first use. So yeah, I'd maybe do that after we do the other pages, just as the first point. Second point is I like calling it onboarding. I think that was me that bring that up. But like I don't think first use is that bad, but like I know onboarding can be quite a broad concept. Like there's different ways you can kind of look at it, but I think the way I kind of was looking at it for the reference design is that onboarding is first downloads the app, which you wouldn't cover that aspect, but they have the app downloaded, they launch it, and it's the steps between getting to like being inside the app. It's like just that informational carousel or the setup where they, similar to accepting a few things or taking a few actions, and maybe like connecting their, I don't know, cloud provider to back up their contacts or something like that. I don't know, there's a whole lot of things we could maybe potentially explore there, but that's kind of how I see in the first use page. And then that would kind of stem into the receiving page, which would probably start with like your first funding and how it would open a channel, and then kind of go into general receiving. And then that would go into, I think I had it written down somewhere because I wanted to move things around a little bit with this, but there's probably a whole lot of changes there. But
you
yeah,
love
just
moving things around.
Well, we'll take a step back from the funding page, but yeah, calling that onboarding and just focusing on those first kind of few frames, like before the user kind of gets into the application. Like I mean, like into the main user interface, not the app itself.
Yeah, and I think you and I talked about this. The way that I had looked at onboarding is more that it's when a user is in the usage life cycle. At first, they don't know about your product, then they become somehow aware of it, then they become interested in it, and taking it more from the interested approach, where they need to be convinced, like, what does this actually do? How does it? Should I trust this? Does it actually, fill my needs? And then throughout the first use until their regular use, until they're comfortable with things, which goes a little bit further past the first use. So first use for me is like a subset, just one part of onboarding. So look at, and I think we can just pick words and then just use them, and then we'll be okay. It's not a big deal, I think.
Yeah, I don't really mind if it's first use or onboarding. I prefer onboarding, but it's not something I think super contentious. I think they both kind of communicate a pretty similar idea. So yeah.
Yeah. So where are we now? Is that something you're planning to do then, or since anyone just pick it up and it's open right now?
I haven't really looked at the first use. I'm focusing on requesting and funding, and then I'll do those first, and then I'll maybe, if no one's picked it up by then, I'll do it.
Okay, so we'll just leave it open for now. And then requesting. Oh, hold on. This one we need to say it's in progress. We have about 10 minutes left. So requesting Bitcoin in progress, right? We talked about it.
Yeah, so I've been just drafting some copy and a document for requesting Bitcoin. So I guess it is in progress. So you can change that to in progress.
Okay, cool. Sending, I have not started yet. Funding, okay. Then activities done. Contacts, there was really not a lot to it except for what I brought about earlier. So a little bit of PR back and forth, we should be good to go. Backup and recovery, nobody assigned, nobody's working on it. And I think we need some new screens there because we never really dug deep into this.
I could work
the recovery
on that.
part backup is, yeah, there are 3 pages to this, so it's a little bit more.
I could work on that one because I did a lot of that when I was revising the prototype last year.
Then question is similar questions. Do we kick out manual backup to some other on-chain reference design? Do we keep it in? But we can work through that. Privacy, security page. yeah, kind of open. We'll get to it. And should we assign anyone or just leave it open? Whoever's done picks them up. Might be easier.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Sounds good.
Cool. And then the wallet prototype, we're all assigned, and I guess I don't know if we're in progress yet. So I think the logistical question is here, where do we actually do this? If it's super based on the UI kit, and at some point we want to have like links from the UI kit into the guide, and it's all kind of, the components are all linked and it's all one big system, then we should build this as a page in the UI kit, main UI kit Figma file, because we don't have enterprise features available where we can have shared libraries that we can pull into different places. So we're kind of forced to put everything in one file. Or should we just ditch the direct link to the UI kit and just create this as its own Figma file, and then just manually update things here and there, I guess?
Well, I think that depends on two things. One, if it's prototype, then we obviously have this button links to this page and so on. So does the inclusion of the prototyping and linking distract from or interfere with the UI kit as a usable UI kit? And then the other question would be like, are there kind of like intermediate screens that we need in order for the prototype to make sense, that are kind of like too much detail for the UI kit, or kind of create redundancy within the UI kit? I mean, I think if the answer to either of those questions is yes, then we should probably have the prototype as its own separate file or just a separate page within the UI kit. But if the answer to both of those is no, then it could conceivably just be all contained within the UI kit Figma file.
I have a question as well. How long do you think the prototype will be?
There are roughly 150 screens in the daily spending wallet pages right now.
150 screens. Okay.
More than that, I'd say. Because I'm sure we're going to make new ones as we go along.
And then that's just going to be at the bottom of the UI kit or on the side somewhere. That's kind of the discussion.
Well, like Steven said, then the landing page will have a link to this prototype. You just click through it, pull it up on your phone or wherever, and just tap through things. And then the individual screens will be repeated in the pages that discuss the details of those designs.
Yeah, that landing page that Steven just had up before, yeah, he's bringing it up now. That is a prototype link. Once it's ready,
so it's like you could like go here and it would take you to like a complete Figma prototype of everything in the daily spending wallet section. Like, you can click on the buttons and, go through all the flows like a user, but then, we have all the chapters and stuff down here still. So you can dig into each topic individually or kind of see it all as one cohesive prototype. But I think what Christoph is trying to figure out is like, can this prototype just be the same Figma file as the actual UI kit?
Or does it have to be? Because the problem is, if you have it in separate files, then they're just not really synced with each other. And sometimes you don't want them to sync. It's just this logistical collaboration thing where, if we had GitHub, it might be a lot easier, the collaboration tools that it provides. But because Figma is not that, it's just harder to find a good structure. And we're not going to have it perfect. There'll always be a bunch of manual comparison and validation and checking and talking to each other involved. You just can't get around.
Yeah, I reckon having a prototype in the wallet UI kit, we could even use that as even if someone stumbled across the UI kit not from the guide, that prototype could be useful for them as like an example of something you could build with this. So I think keeping it in the UI kit makes sense. And that way as well, like you said, we can turn all the frames into components and we can easily edit them and it will reflect in the prototype directly without having to completely monitor everything and track everything and look for updates and stuff like that.
I agree with Bosch.
Yeah, if Figma allows us to do this, because last year they locked down the collaboration stuff a lot. So, okay, cool. But we'll have to look into that. Different topic. We'll figure it out. Okay.
I've got one more thing.
Okay.
I got to head off in 4 minutes, by the way, because
Mhm.
I accidentally stupidly scheduled a call with Evan at the same time. But one other thing is what I was talking about before when I was talking about the first use is that I think it would make more sense to have first use and then the requesting page. I know it sounds weird, but like as a user who's using a wallet for the first time, that's probably the first action you would take. But I don't know if that's like maybe would be super as relevant for the like product designer, but to me that kind of makes sense. Like the user gets into the app, first thing they probably do is they request. We kind of walk through the requesting aspects and be like, this is different ways you request, and then go to the receiving page and be like, okay, cool. Now you know how to request. Now you need to send that request to someone and receive a payment. Because at the moment it's like funding, but funding is you need to request a payment before you fund a wallet. So like it's kind of not in the correct order in my mind, but.
Yeah. I mean
that's
why it's maybe better to just have first use as its own contained thing, which involves the requesting. Yeah.
What I don't know, like when you first go on any like wallet, most of the time when it comes to Lightning ones, you always have to have some funds in it, and either they have to provide that for you, or like that's the first thing you're going to be doing.
Yeah, you need to send yourself funds from somewhere, basically. So you're not requesting it from someone else.
You're requesting it from yourself. Yeah, most of the time,
yeah,
yourself.
Yeah.
You still need to make a request either way. So like that's the first thing you do when you're in a wallet. Like you have to make a request, whether it's to yourself or to someone else. But
technically, logically, that is what is happening. But in terms of structuring the guide and in terms of what the UI looks like, it may not be the same. Because I would assume that with this, when you're requesting your initial request to fund your wallet, you're not necessarily gonna. Well, you can't make a Lightning request in the first place. You're not gonna add a contact. It will probably be a stripped down version of what's going on. Anyways, okay, we'll work through this and all the issues and the PRs. So John hopped off. Bosch, you said you have to hop off. Any last words? Everyone else can just stay on here. We can keep chatting if you'd like. Yeah, Bosch, anything else? Or you're good for
no,
I scheduled
really.
the next one for in 2 weeks.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm keen for the 2 week schedule. That sounds good to me.
Okay, Daniel has been here without camera the whole time. Anything you'd like to tell us? Or are you also without words, without microphone?
Hey, sorry, I'm in a pretty loud space. I've been keeping quiet. But yeah, I'll keep a good eye on the daily spending wallet designs because that's kind of what I'm trying to build in my new build project. So it'll be exciting to see how that comes along. I'm still kind of on the beginnings and the tech stack for it, so I haven't quite gotten to that level yet. But I'll be there soon.
Cool. I gotta hop off anyways, guys. I'll talk to you during the week.
Peace.
Cheers, Bosch.
Thanks for joining.
Catch up.
Yeah.
See ya.
And so Bosch, Mo, and I have also been working on the accessibility page, which is coming along pretty well.
Very exciting stuff.
Let's see what Reddit says about accessibility. No comments.
No comments. Oh, that's painful. Oh man.
Wait. Where's the link? I'll comment. I'll make my real comment. An honest one. What's the big point?
Well, do you have like accessibility needs? Like I don't know, are you blind or anything visually impaired or anything else?
No, but you can still have an opinion.
Oh yeah.
I haven't read the post yet. So maybe I should wait to read the post.
No, we're basically trying to, we did some research, Mo, Bosch, and and then I think some others too. We've been talking about accessibility. Nobody really talks about it or does much about it. We're just trying to get some basics down. Like there's some very basic best practices, just like in web development. Like if you label things properly, a screen reader knows what it is, and it can read it out loud. That's very simple. But then there are the real problems people are having, like in their day-to-day when they actually use it, with different types of impairments, with fine motor skills, or they can't see, they can't hear, like because we don't have those problems. We don't really know what they are. So we're trying to reach out to some, and like I also asked it on Twitter earlier, just to get some real stories from people.
Yeah, of course. I think firsthand it's going to be obviously like the most valuable, but at the same time, I just want to like add like, I want to be one of those annoying people, but yeah, I think you can definitely have an opinion regardless.
Oh, totally. We can get the basics, but it would be awesome if we get some more people involved. And I think on Twitter, a lot of people mix up accessibility with usability.
Yeah, access, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So very interesting. Okay, cool. Anything else you'd like to chat about?
Nope, nothing from my side.
Back to the design mind.
Let's wrap it up.
I'll see you on Thursday, Stephen. I'll reply to your message.
Sorry?
Yeah, I will check these guys out again. Thank you guys for letting me in and being so open and stuff like that for everyone to be new and stuff. I'll check out the whole contribute page and read out everything, watch your videos more, just to get more grasp on how you guys are all doing. And yeah, I'll see you guys around.
Awesome. Thanks for joining.
Cheers, Masood.
See you soon.
Ciao, ciao. See you around.
All right, later.